In this video we're going to look at what ratios are. You've studied ratios before, so this is more or less just a review of ratio. You can see a picture there of a lawnmower, and you might see down the bottom of the lawnmower it says two-stroke lawnmowers run on petrol and oil mixed in a certain ratio. That is an example of a ratio because petrol and oil are both fluids, and fluids are alike. We're not comparing a solid and a liquid. It's two things that are alike, are the same. So a lot of things like lawnmowers and like my line trimmer require two-stroke fuel, so that's petrol and a special type of oil. There's a lot more petrol than oil. It's mixed together to make the fuel, and basically my line trimmer has a 1:25 ratio. So that means for every 1 part of oil it requires 25 parts of petrol, and that needs to be mixed together and then put in the machine. And this also means that there are 26 parts overall, 1 plus 25, which makes a 1 part of the fuel. So 26 parts of each of those fluids makes 1 part of the two-stroke fuel. But there's lots of other things that you can look at in ratio. You see ratios or application ratios with cooking. You see it also with even making cordial or mixing a drink like reconstituted orange juice. We can see perhaps the ratio at an event of males to females might be 3:5. We can see in gear ratios the ratio of teeth between two gears that are meshed together might be 1:4. The slope of a hill might have a ratio of 1:10. That'd be a steep hill. That means for every meter you go up, you go across 10. A roof truss on a roof might have a ratio too, which talks about how steep that roof is. We might have a bill at a restaurant for $140 split between 3 people in the ratio of 3:4:7, and we can work out how much each person should pay. A right angle triangle might have a ratio of sides of 3:4:5. With the hypotenuse being 5. So they're used all over the place. Some examples of some of the things and operations you need to be able to perform with ratios are simplifying various things. So if we look at simplify, that means we write the ratio in a form A is to B, where A and B are the lowest values, the lowest whole number values possible. Let's look at some examples. What if we have to simplify the following? Let's say the first one is 3.8 is to 2.4. Okay, we want lowest whole number values for the simplified ratio, so we need to find a common factor of both so that we can divide both parts of the ratio and also get a whole number answer. When we're given decimals, which is possible, it often helps to actually write them as whole numbers. the easiest way in this case, when we have one decimal place, is multiply both sides of the ratio, which was 3.8. If we multiply that by 10, we get 38. So we can write that as 38 is to, again, 2.4, one decimal place. If we multiply that by 10, we get 24. We now have 38 is to 24. So what is the fraction or the number that we can multiply in that goes into both 38 and 24? This is where knowing your times tables is handy. So factors of 38 and also factors of 24. Well, 38 divided by 2, we can try that. Maybe 2's the highest common factor. If you can't think of the highest common factor straight up, at least think of one common factor, and then you might be able to do it gradually in steps. So half of 38, in other words 38 divided by 2, is 19. For the two numbers that have the same relationship, we must also divide the other part of the ratio by that same highest common factor. And it is 2 in this case, because once we divide 38 by 2, we have 19, which is a prime number. There's nothing higher, and there's no other factors like 3 or 4 or anything that's common to both. 24 has quite a number of factors, but 38 doesn't have quite so many. So that ratio, it's an equivalent ratio and it's simplified. 3.8 to 2.4 can also be written as 19 is to 12. We have the smallest whole numbers available that make the same ratio. Another example, we have 2.5 is to 1 1/3. You can get common fractions or mixed numbers in ratios as well. The idea here would be to write them with a common denominator. But before we do that, you may wish to write both parts of the fraction as an improper fraction. So 2.5 is 2 times 2 plus 1, which is 5 over 2, is 2. We're going to have something on 3. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So we have 5 halves is to 4/3. We'd like a common denominator between halves and thirds. 6 is the common denominator. From your previous work, you know that 5 over 2 is the same as, well, we multiply the denominator by 3, we must multiply the numerator by 3. 5 times 3 is 15. So 5 over 2 is equivalent to 15 on 6. To go from 3 to 6, we have to multiply by 2 on the denominator, and we have to multiply by 2 on the numerator on the top, and 4 by 2 is 8. So we have both of them over 6 now, which is good because we're comparing things that are the same. If we multiply both sides of the ratio by the same number, 6, we have 15 is to 8. So I multiply both sides by 6. If you do something to one side, you must do the same thing to the other side, the same operation. 15 is to 8. Now we need to check, is that the simplest ratio? Well, there are no more common factors apart from 1 between the two of those, so that is the simplest ratio. Final type of task you might be asked to do is to divide a quantity into a certain ratio. So for example, if we have to divide $300 into a ratio of 2 is to 3. How do we do that? That's like saying, well, we've got $300, person A is going to get 2 parts of that, and the other 3 parts is going to person B. we need to use what's called the unitary method. Unitary meaning one part. Unit or unitary means one part. So the unitary method is pretty simple. If we've got 2 parts here and 3 parts there, how big is one part? So we can work that out. We have a total here of 2 plus 3. We have 5 parts in this ratio. And 5 parts is equivalent, that's a triple equal sign, is equivalent to $300. So if we divide through by 5 on both sides, one part is equivalent to 300 divided by 5, which is $60. $60 is one part. So 2 is to 3 is 2 lots of 60 is to 3 lots of 60. And that would mean in terms of dollars, that's $120 is to $180. That money is now split. You can do a quick check. 120 plus 180 is $300. So it is right, and that's how you would split the money like that. Time to do some questions now.